After spending 30 minutes on each method, here is what I've discovered. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Zainab and I share everything about Quran memorization to help you on your journey, inshallah. Can you really memorize one full page of the Quran in just 30 minutes? Today I'm gonna put myself to the test. I'll be using three memorization techniques to see which one works best, and at the end I will share which one worked the best and what I struggled the most with. I'll be setting 30 minutes timer each for each method, and at the end of the video we'll see which method was the fastest and most effective. So grab your mushaf, get comfortable, and let's get started. So here is how this is going to work. I'll be using three memorization methods, and the first one is repetition method, and that is repeating the page over and over and over in 30 minutes. The second method is the chunking method, and that is separating the page into several chunks and reading them separately. And the third one is listening method, and that is listening to a reciter and reading after him. I'll spend 30 minutes on each method and track how much I memorized, and at the end of the video I will compare the results I get. So let's get started. First up is the repetition method. This is one of the most common ways people memorize. It's simple, just read the ayats over and over until they stick. At first this felt comfortable. Since I was saying words again and again, they started to feel familiar pretty quickly. This method is great because it helps you recognize patterns, and the more you see one ayah, the more natural it feels. But here is what I've noticed. After about 10 minutes, I was able to recite the few first ayats pretty well, but when I closed the mushaf to test myself, I forgot the rest. It's not that the method doesn't work, it does, but for me, it felt like my brain wasn't just getting used to the words rather than fully absorbing them. If I got distracted for even a second, I'll forget what came next. That being said, this method does work, but if you have a lot of time, and it also works great for reviewing what you have already memorized. But since I only have 30 minutes, let's see if there is a faster method. Now let's try the chunking method, one of my favorite techniques to use to memorize the Quran, because instead of memorizing the whole page all at once, you divide the page into manageable sections and focus on one part at a time. Here is how it works. I divide the page about 3 to 4 chunks depending on the length of the ayah. I will focus on one section at a time, repeat it until I know it well, then move on to the next. Right away I noticed something. This feels way easier since I'm only focusing on few lines at a time. I don't feel overwhelmed and the words start sticking much faster. Feeling confident, I move to the second chunk. Same process, repeat, test, repeat, and it sticks faster than when I read the whole page, and I was thinking this might be the best method. And then I tried to read the whole page from the beginning to the end, and that's where I hit my first challenge. Since I was so focused on memorizing the new section, I started forgetting the first one. At first, this was frustrating. I thought I was making progress, but then I realized I was losing to previous sections as I moved ahead. That's when I knew I had to change my approach. Instead of memorizing each section separately, I go back and recite the first chunk, then immediately add the second chunk to it. This way, I'm not memorizing isolated pieces, I'm actually connecting them together. Okay, so how did this method compare to the repetition method? Honestly, I like this method. It felt structured, it helped me memorize faster, and I didn't feel overwhelmed. But I had to be careful. If I didn't connect the sections properly, I would start forgetting them. So while this method makes memorization easier, it also requires extra effort to make sure everything flows together. Overall, I would say this was a good method, but you have to make some conscious effort to not get anything lost along the way. Now let's go to the listening method and see if it's even better. Now let's try the listening method. This method is simple. I'm just gonna listen to a reciter and repeat after him. I'm gonna try to let the words sink in before I try to memorize it myself. For this, I'm using slow-paced recitation so I can clearly hear every word. The goal is to train my ears first so my brain gets familiar with the rhythm and pronunciation before I even attempt to memorize. I'm not overthinking the words, just naturally copying what I hear, and since I'm repeating after a fluent reciter and avoiding mistakes in pronunciation. But there was a problem. I relied too much on the reciter. Since I was copying without fully processing, I didn't log it in on my own. So here's the fix to that. Instead of immediately repeating, I will pause first and will try recalling the ayah before listening again. This tiny change makes a huge difference. Now I'm actually memorizing. This method makes memorization feel natural, but you have to remember that you can't rely on the audio too much. As long as you try active recall, it's a good method to learn. Now let's see how well the three methods compare to each other. The repetition method. It works for some people, but for me it felt too slow and I felt like I recognized the words, but I didn't absorb them truly. The chunking method. This was way faster, and memorizing in small sections helped me retain the ayahs quickly, but the only challenge was connecting the parts smoothly. The last method is the listening method, and this method helps with the flow and the pronunciation of the ayahs. Using this method alone to memorize a full page feels harder, but when it's combined with the other methods, it works. So which method worked best? Honestly, it depends. For me, it was the chunking method because it gave a clear structure and it felt like memorizing the ayahs was easier, but I also found that combining the methods made a huge difference because for example, you can start by listening and then you move to the chunking part, to the memorization, and then you move to the repetition part to review everything you have memorized. So if you're struggling with memorization, try to combine different methods and see which one works best for you. Something I've realized today is that Quran memorization isn't just about speed, it's about connection. So instead of focusing how fast you memorize, focus instead on how much you remember and try to apply it in your life. Now I want to hear from you guys. What's your favorite memorization method? Is it the repetition method, the chunking, or the listening method, or is it something completely different? Comment below whatever method it is. I want to know. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will see you in my next video inshallah. Jazakallah khair for watching, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.